𝗵𝘃𝗄𝗃, who was alleging that Deshaun Watson was inappropriate with 2 masseuses, now says there will be 6. There will be more. If this thing if this thing snowballs the way it often does, the way it is is the way we're watching in real time as it happens in New York with the governor, with the scummy governor. If this happens to the Texans quarterback, is that good? Because then the Texans will feel compelled to deal him out of Houston, and the price will go down because the price right now is pretty high.
It's too high.
So, as usual, I look at these sexual misconduct stories and say, what are the sports implications? I don't want to. That's awful, but you're a Patriots fan, right, Turtle Boy?
Of course.
That's how you look at everything, right?
Yeah, Julian Edelman got accused of the same nonsense, 8 or 9 years ago? How'd that work out?
It was more than that, and he was innocent. And I will just say, I don't want to review it, but we were literally talking to a police officer in the morning off the air as the story was breaking, and he was giving us the real story and telling us what happened. And he just said, it is not true, and Edelman never really stuck with Edelman, and this might not stick with Deshaun Watson. Let's hope so. But
yeah, but let's say it does. Do you want to be the team that acquired an absolute scumbag before?
No,
yes, innocent until proven guilty, but it's you don't want to be that team.
I don't want to be the guy, but Belichick has proven that he is, he has no soul. He's a killer. He's an assassin, a cold-blooded assassin. And maybe he looks into it himself and says, these charges aren't legit. There's nothing there. And he gets the sense that the Texans are giving up because, as we said yesterday, as I've said it many times, the quarterbacks control the league now. When they want to get dealt, they generally get dealt. There are very few examples of teams that have star quarterbacks who want to be traded, and they say, too bad. We got you. You're under contract. You're going nowhere. That rarely happens. And in this case, it might because he's so good and he's young and he's got such potential over the next 8-10 years. But this doesn't help. If you haven't read the story yet, I just was reading the thing and it says, first it was one masseuse and you go, yeah, whatever, it happens. The second masseuse who's alleging inappropriate behavior from Deshaun Watson is based in Atlanta, which is pretty amazing when you consider the horrific.
Yeah, anything happened there recently?
Murders
with Asian masseuses?
Masseuses, massage therapists. I probably should be calling them massage therapists. Masseuse sounds kind of tawdry, but anyway, she was based in Atlanta. He flew her to Houston for a massage, and when she showed up, according to her lawyer Busby, he was naked, and which is normal, I guess, when you get a massage, but no cover. And then he touched her inappropriately. That's what she's alleging. Now, I think if it's just these 2 people and this one lawyer, somehow I think Deshaun Watson could survive. But what if it's true? 6 is a big number, and they all have their own story about him doing something inappropriate. That's a big, big problem for Deshaun Watson. And you know what? That's a problem that no one's going to want to take on. That's probably good for the Texans, because if you're the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, you're going to say, this thing is just getting started. We don't want any part of it. We'll stick with Cam Newton, who stinks, but at least he's not groping massage therapists.
Though, as this is playing out, like if you're Belichick, you're saying, well, one, his stock just dropped, right? So I can get him cheaper than I thought I could get him.
Did you see what they were projecting the Patriots would have to give for him?
What would they say?
It's incredible.
This year's first round pick, next year's first round pick, this year and next year's second round pick, Gilmore and N'Keal Harry, all of them. That's insane. Deshaun Watson's a good quarterback. That's freaking insane.
It is. Did you see what the Bears offered for Russell Wilson? It's even more than that.
What'd they offer? I didn't even see.
Three first rounders, and I believe 2 starters. And I'm not sure if Khalil Mack is one of them, but it's a motherload. And I know, Wilson is automatic. He comes in, you're a playoff team if you're the Bears. So,
right.
And these quarterbacks are worth whatever the good ones are worth whatever they're paid, whatever you have to give up.
Why didn't we get more for Jimmy Garoppolo then? I said that when we had Jimmy. I'm like, trade him to the Browns for 3 first-round picks. They have to do it.
I spent months talking about that on the air. And you know, that's another one of those great Belichick mysteries. Obviously, the Malcolm Butler benching in the Super Bowl is number one on the list. Number two would be Garoppolo, a second-round pick for a guy who, at the time, and at least the Niners looked at him as a young franchise quarterback. I thought Houston was the place, before Watson. I thought Houston could have used him and would have given up a first rounder, mid first round, whatever, a first round pick. They got a second, and the theory was always that Belichick did it almost out of spite, because he was forced to do it by Kraft. He said, "You want me to deal Garoppolo, stick with Brady?" He thought he should stick with Garoppolo. I think Brady proved him wrong, but when they traded him, it was like, yeah, he liked. I mean, it wasn't a favor to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. It wasn't a favor, but it was certainly.
There was a discount.
A discount. It certainly seemed like a discount. I mean, a starting quarterback, period, even if it's not a Pro Bowler, is worth more than one second rounder. But hell, we'll see what he gives up to get him back. I mean, if he gives up a first rounder.
Well, actually, that brings up a good point. Is it really just down to I mean, you got to take Russell Wilson out of the picture now, because if the Seahawks are not accepting that trade, then they ain't accepting anything, I would assume, at this point.
Yeah, that's true. You don't get more than that.
Yeah, so that brings it really just to Watson and Garoppolo, right? In terms of the big name quarterbacks that are rumored to have trade potential, I would assume.
Well, I think Gardner Minshew and Sam Darnold are going to get dealt because their teams are going to draft. And obviously one is going to be Trevor Lawrence. So if you think Minshew's a starter, and I got no reason to think that Belichick believes that, but
Minshew is the perfect backup. He could be the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. He could be the guy that journeyman goes around the league for a long time.
He has long hair and he looks kind of like
because he's serviceable. Like, you throw him in there, he's not good, but he's not going to screw the whole thing up. He's not going to go Nathan Peterman on you.
I'll say this. Let me ask you this. Do you think he's better than Cam Newton? Because I do.
Yeah, I think you have a better chance of winning a football game with Gardner Minshew than you do with Cam Newton. I do.
Yes. And Sam Darnold, I know you think he stinks, and you convinced me of it. Actually, you told me this before the last Jets-Patriots game, and I watched every pass he threw, and you were right. He was inaccurate. He was throwing over guys' heads. And I mean, maybe he was banged up. Maybe he lost all his confidence, and Belichick and Josh McDaniel could rebuild him. But they're going to have to deal, or they will deal him too, because they're going to take a QB at number 2. I don't know if it'll be Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, but there will be 2 starters, serviceable starters in Minshew and Darnold dealt by draft day. That's going to happen, and I'm not sure the Jets and Patriots are making a lot of deals, but there'll be a guy available who is better than Cam Newton. There will be half dozen guys available, I think, who are better passers than Cam Newton.
Do you think?
And the Patriots will grab one. There's no way they invested this kind of dough in wide receivers and tight ends, and they're going to have Newton throwing balls at their feet. No way.
I mean, how can he get any worse though? I mean, I hate to start thinking like this, but like,
that is not the question.
It's the wrong mentality to have, because then you're starting to settle for Cam Newton when you start asking that question. Is it kind of get better? Because the answer is no, it can't get any worse than that.
Who was it? Was it like everybody was freaking out on Tuesday, obviously with all the signings, but then thinking it Wednesday. There's a little echo coming from you, Turtleboy, by the way, I think. But then Tuesday, I think it was Patrick Chung tweeted out like more to come or something like that. And I thought right there was that he was giving information about potentially trading for a quarterback.
And that was
funny.
And then that was funny, I guess, but boy, was that annoying. And yeah. Can Turtleboy do something about it?
Is it that bad? Do you want me to mute?
It was pretty bad. Yeah, just turn down whatever you're doing. But it was goofy. It was a dumb joke, whatever. But the Watson news, like everybody, basically, if you look under the comments, it's like Watson, it's happening. And then flash forward 12 hours, and there's the potential that.
I think you should explain first of all, and if people weren't on Twitter, Patrick Chung kept tweeting, "Big news coming, and it was in the middle of the frenzy, and you're thinking, oh, bigger than all these tight ends and wide receivers that Belichick just signed. What could it be? A trade for a quarterback or a trade for Watson? and it was, what is the, did he got Liberty Mutual?
He saved a bunch of money with Liberty Mutual.
He saved money with Liberty Mutual. And
Which, come on, that actually is kind of funny. Like, can you tell
it's kind of funny, but it's very annoying. And the reason I liked it is because of all the Patriot, beat guys and all the media and all the radio guys are sitting there. Oh my God, here it comes. Belichick's going to get a quarterback. And he said, I saved money with Liberty Mutual. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. Because, boy, he sucked a lot of people in. Patrick Chung did. But still no quarterback. I will be shocked if Newton is the starter in September. Be shocked. But especially if you got all these guys, new wideouts, new tight ends, and you're investing. You're loading up, as we used to say.
I wondered when I saw the 2 tight ends thing, I'm like, I would assume it's easier to throw to a tight end than it is to a receiver. Right. I'm like, did they stock up on tight ends because they know Cam's limitations?
Well, it's worked in the past. You got to admit the tight end has kind of worked here with Gronkowski.
With Tom Brady throwing the ball, yes.
And others. A great tradition of tight ends. And last year, I'll name 2 Patriot tight ends and win valuable prizes, Turtle Boy. I'll give you a mug. Give you this mug I have right here. If you can name 2 tight ends from last year's team.
𝗟𝗄𝗏 and the other guy from Virginia Tech who never played. And then Mulligan.
𝗏𝗏 was there.
Is those kid? Is that Larry Izzo's son? Is the Izzo that we had? I assume it's got to be.
I don't think so. No.
I don't believe it. I figured they were doing him a favor or something because that guy sucked too.
That's the best. You got Larry Izzo's son and the guy that they drafted who never played.
𝗟𝗄𝗏, that guy, yeah. 𝗟𝗏𝗃𝗲, and then the guy from Virginia Tech, the other one.
Well, it's going to be different next year. They're going to have tight ends, good tight ends. They just don't have. And as I'll ask again, can they catch balls that are 3 feet behind them and at their feet and over their heads? Because that's what they're going to have to do. And you know what happens when you get an inaccurate passer? You get wideouts killed. You get guys like Edelman who go over the middle and have to reach behind them or have to reach above them. They get crushed. That's not a healthy thing for wideouts and tight ends. But we will see Deshaun Watson. I don't know if this helps or hurts or what it does for a potential trade. If you're Deshaun Watson, you got 6 massage therapists saying you groped them. Do you still have the cachet to go into the front office and say, trade me, I want out? I mean, can you still do that?
I don't know. To be perfectly, he's come out pretty strong and like he sounds solid. It's not like one of these weak defenses. It's one of these ones like I cannot wait to get prove our innocence with the I believe Deshaun Watson, and I think he's got of all the places to be accused of sexual harassment, a massage therapy place isn't the worst because Bob Kraft got groped in a massage therapy place, right?
Minus like demanding a trade. Have you ever heard a bad word about Deshaun Watson?
No, never.
No, and I was looking for those, and because if you're doing your due diligence, if you're the Patriots, Jets, Dolphins, whoever, that's the problem for the Patriots. Is the Dolphins and Jets just have more to offer, and the Dolphins have Tua, and if the Texans front off, if Nick Caserio likes Tua, and maybe he does, maybe just thinks he needs some coaching and some get healthier. Then that makes all the sense in the world. Then you got to go against Watson twice a year for the next 10 years. But I don't remember a bad word about him. The problem is, just say you're right, Turtle Boy. Right now, it's just 2 people and a shady lawyer, and I don't know anything about the lawyer. But just say he's done that, and you find out it starts to look good for Watson. Then boom, the next day, like Cuomo, you got 2 more and 3 more and 5 more, and you go, holy crap!
Are they all massage therapists though?
Well, again, there's only 2, but he says there will be 6.
I need to know more about this place. I mean, it might be like a lot of these places. It's like the worst kept secret. You go in there, extra 200, the fun stats.
Didn't he DM one of them on Instagram and went to her home or something like that?
I know he flew one into. I'm gonna get the whole story here. I knew he flew one into Houston, and I'm gonna guess there's a few there in Houston. Like already who work there. And there's probably a dozen on the Texans payroll. I mean, they come into the facility. These guys get massages every day. Brady's got his own guy, but we've seen these guys getting massages. I remember Emmitt Smith, who had a long, great career. Look at his numbers. And they asked him one day, what was the secret? Because he's a running back. He's getting pounded. And he says, a deep tissue massage every day is why I've managed to survive and thrive. And that is obvious. These guys, I mean, there's literally, I don't know how many that are in there working every day during the season, but I'd say at least a half a dozen, maybe more, 8 or 10. And he had to fly one in from Atlanta. I think you're right. It's a I would say dirty little secret because they're consenting adults. Let them do what they want. I say the same thing about Kraft. The idea that we were going to ruin people's lives because Kraft, a lonely widow, was paying extra for
a white supremacist too. Anybody who goes to an Asian rub and tug now is a white supremacist.
This is a very this is a difficult transition because I want to talk about Atlanta and what happened there to the massage therapists, that this horrific mass murder, but and it's got nothing to do. There's no connection except there were masseuses, and one of them from Atlanta flew to Houston. What if we find out she worked at one of those same places that this guy shot up? I'm going to assume if he's sex addicted, and we're talking about Robert Long, the scumbag 21-year-old mass murderer who killed 8 people, 6 of them Asian, and I don't think I've ever seen greater disappointment from left-wing Twitter, liberal Twitter, when the police, was it the chief or the spokesman? I saw the press conference and the cop says, and they kept grilling him about the race aspect, racism. Did he say anything about race? Was he targeting Asians? And the cop said no. And he points out the creep is a sex addict who blames the masseuses, massage therapists, for his problem. But he didn't do it because they're Asian. And it was so disappointing to CNN and MSNBC. And as you and I talked about, Ayanna Pressley and AOC, they were so disappointed that this wasn't a flat out white supremacist, racist who hates Asians. It was heartbreaking to them that it was just some creep and they couldn't get any mileage out of it. It was the most tawdry thing. And you and I were both looking at Twitter before we started recording, and they're not even subtle about it, Turtle Boy. They flat out say, he's a white supremacist, and the cops refute that or they don't back it up, and they don't care. It's like,
yeah, I mean, this is literally AOC's tweet. Like, as a matter of fact, she says, dismantling racist anti-Asian violence means standing up to white supremacy, the same ideology that asks us to empathize with those who commit racist violence rather than families destroyed and communities targeted by it. So we know it's white supremacy is the biggest problem plaguing the Asian community right now. Not the fact that, and I looked up this stuff on the FBI's data list prior to coming on the show because I like to be educated on these topics, Gerry. Every race of people, white, black, Hispanic, one thing they all have in common is the majority of people who are killed in that particular race are killed by other members of that race. So white on white crime, black on black crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crimes are the biggest violent crimes plaguing those communities. The only one that's the exception is the Asian community. Asians are third on the list of killing Asians. Number 2 is white people. Number 1 is African American. And so this idea that white supremacy is killing Asian people is just factually untrue. Yesterday, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. They didn't wait to find out. They didn't speculate that this guy might be a white supremacist. He is a white supremacist, Gerry, even though 2 white people were also killed yesterday.
And it's heartbreaking if you read the story. One was a woman who was getting a couples massage with her husband. I don't know if you've ever done this. You get 2 tables, and I never had the complete, the complete Orchids of Asia treatment, but I did this with my wife. It would
be kind of weird if your wife was there for that. It would defeat the purpose. Just saying.
There are weird people out there. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but there are people out there. So you got 2 tables, 2 masseuses, you got soft music, you got candles, and it's a very romantic experience. I don't know if they were already on the table. I just read a long, detailed story, but this scumbag killed her, but not him. He survived, she died. And she's white as you or me, and she's just like discarded, collateral damage. We're busy with a narrative here. We're pursuing a narrative, and you mentioned AOC. Here is my crazy congressperson, Ayanna Pressley, who's up to 1 million followers, by the way. 1 million people read her insanity on Twitter every day. She tweets, 8 lives were violently stolen. We need to stand in solidarity and deep compassion with our AAPI family in Georgia and across the country. Racism, misogyny, and white supremacy are a threat to all of our communities, and we must call out the targeted violent attacks on our AAPI neighbors. Okay, you definitely should be tweeting, you should be talking, you should be sympathizing and sending your prayers and thoughts to the Asian or AAPI community.
Should we stop right there? Another abbreviation I'm supposed to remember. AAPI. Is that Asian American Pacific Islander?
Asian American, yes, very good. Asian American and Pacific Islander.
Jesus Christ, they don't fall under BIPOC?
I'm not sure why can't just say Asian. Anyway, she flat out says, and it was liked 15,000 times, retweeted 3,200 times, that it was white supremacy. The cops catch him. By the way, his parents ratted him out. His father's a preacher, Southern preacher. They ratted him out. He's 21. I mean, how do you get this just angry and hateful at 21?
How bad was the massage? I don't understand what the deal was. Was it just...
Well, I mean, I don't know that we'll find out, and it's going to be uncomfortable if we do, but if he's sex addicted and he's going to massage parlors, does that mean he's like leaving frustrated because he doesn't get...
I don't know. I thought you were supposed to leave with a happy ending, Jerry. I thought that was the whole point of the massage
never
parlor.
Experienced that, but maybe he did. I don't know. We'll find out more, but he wasn't really a criminal genius. He just shot up a couple of these places, killed 8, and then went on the run to Florida where he was going to go kill more. His parents called, I don't know if they called his parents or whatever, and they tracked him down pretty quickly.
The parents gave his cell phone, and they tracked him down. Yeah.
And then the cops saw him, and they cut him off and smashed into his car, and took him in, and he cooperated, and he confessed, and he said it's a sex addiction that he blames on the massage therapists, and that's all. He's white and Southern. I'm sure that's part of the narrative. So AOC and Ayanna Pressley, and I'm sure New York Times people and CNN people all said, white supremacy, let's go with it. They honestly don't need it to make sense or to be factual. They don't issue retractions or apologies. They just say white supremacy. This kid, and they don't even care about the 2 white people or, the poor woman who was.
But didn't we just kind of point out the ludicrous nature of, okay, he's got a sex addiction where he's basically going to massage parlors to feed that addiction. Now we're supposed to assume that, no, he went to go destroy the massage parlors because he's mad at them for feeding the addiction, right? That doesn't make sense.
He's a sick, obviously insane. I mean, just what he did was so sick and twisted, evil. And you're saying, I got an idea. Let's say he's a white supremacist and hates Asians. Okay, let's go with it. It's like they don't even wait for the cops to make their case or even make a statement. And again, if you watch the press conference, you'll just see half the questions are about race. And the cops are like, I mean, he didn't say anything about race. He said he was addicted to sex and he blamed them. And it's tragic and it's nauseating what he did. But the fact that the bodies, the blood hasn't even been cleaned up, and these people, including Congress people, are immediately advancing a false narrative because that's what they do, and feel no reason to hold back. Just go for it. Yeah, white supremacists. Look at him. He's got a beard, and he's white, and he's Southern, and he's crazy, and he's got guns. They used to be, wasn't that long ago, Turtleboy, that when this happened, immediately it was blame the NRA, blame the guns. Now it's blame white supremacy.
It's so easy. It's everything is white supremacy's fault. You would think that it's the number one problem plaguing America right now, these roving bands of white supremacists. But I don't know. But then you realize that, like, when they say white supremacy, they don't mean like some foreign boogeyman out there. They mean you. They mean conservative people, and this is just their way of rebranding you so that you yourself become illegal. Like, your thoughts, conservative values are no longer acceptable because they're white supremacy because they've just declared it as that. And I think people, you need to stand up to it. You need to call it out constantly and just start fighting fire with fire. Like, why are, okay, they're good.
I don't even I know like Tucker Carlson's taking a lot of grief because he said, what is it? What is white nationalism? What does that even mean? I'm with him. I don't see the movement, and maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. Tell me who leads the movement.
And you're making it's fine, but like you're also on the defensive right now, Gerry. You're doing the whole like I'm not a white supremacist. I don't see white supremacy. You got to start going on the offensive, like our guy 𝗪𝗪 does. Just immediately, just call them pedophiles. That's all you got to do.
𝗪𝗪, let's be honest. He stole that from me. I've been saying that for years.
I've been saying that since 2016. I've been calling people pedophiles.
And we talk about it. I was before. I don't want to brag, but I was before that because I'll just tell you the story. I was accused of racism for something, just a story where we were talking about something and the convenient fallback position by one of my co-hosts at the time was, you sound like a racist. And I said, my immediate response is, I've heard you like little boys. I said, it's just a rumor out there. In fact, that's what he said, was that people say, you can be racist. I said, people say you like little boys. And he said, what do you mean? I go, yeah, I've heard that. You're a pedophile. And we went back and forth. He got upset. You know what he did? He walked out. He walked out of the studio
How long ago was this Ream team?
It is not, of course not. Rima can handle it.
Oh, it's 𝗃𝗵𝘃𝗄. It was 𝗃𝗵𝘃𝗃. That sounds like
it is not 𝗃𝗵𝘃𝗃𝗃. It was one Gary Tangway, who I like. He was a great guy, but he cavalierly throws out the R word the way, liberals do. No thought to it, no substance, just throws it out there. And I've done it before. Trust me. I was doing it when Jesse Kelly was still in the Marines. I was doing it because it is the only answer. When they cavalierly throw out the worst thing in the accusation they can think of, the R word, say, you're doing it because of race, when clearly I'm not, but they know, as you know as well as anyone, it puts you on the defensive. It makes it hard to defend yourself. And I just said, you're a pedophile. And
you just stop defending yourself. If you did nothing wrong, then you don't need to defend yourself. You just need, you need to go, you start using their weaponry is so effective and their branding is so good. Why we're not just modeling ourselves after them boggles my mind, because we have people like Mitt Romney who are principled. They don't have any principled people, and that's why they win, okay? So we just need to start going after them. Every time you're called a white supremacist or a white nationalist, just like, how young is too young for you? 8? 7? I don't know. You pedophiles are gross.
And when he stormed out, I said, that's my point. You get upset when you're accused of something so vile, just so evil that you can't handle it. You can't defend yourself, so you storm out, right?
Yeah, that's
the answer.
You won.
That me, I'm going to call you a pedophile because it's it's not true, but you do it because it's hard to defend. It's hard to explain when someone says, "Oh, that's racist." You go, blah, 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 and they put you on the defensive. Well, I said I'm not going to be I'm not going to be on the defensive. I'm coming back at you, and I'm going to talk about all the people who have all those rumors about you enjoying the comfort of enjoying the company of young boys. But anyway, it doesn't stop. I think when you and I look at the AOC, the 𝗂𝗓𝗪 tweets, consider the way they do it. They do it confidently. They do it assuredly. They say, this is white supremacy. This is racism. The cops say, no, it's not. And they double down. It doesn't happen the other way around. There will be no pulling back today from 𝗂𝗓𝗪 or AOC or Joy Reid or Don Lemon or Chris Cuomo or you name it. There will be nobody saying, now that the evidence is in, turns out this scumbag Robert Long is just hated, temptation that these massage therapists presented. That's what he said. It had nothing to do with their race. There's two white people dead here. Let's not forget about them. There'll be none of that. They will continue. You watch today, both 𝗂𝗓𝗪 and AOC will again tweet about white supremacy because that's what works. But I gotta say, it was almost, I don't want to say it's the worst thing, the most contemptible and irresponsible thing I heard yesterday, but did you see Jen Psaki, the spokesperson for Joe Biden?
I know who she is.
Essentially blamed the rhetoric of the Trump for this.
Yeah, but she's civil, Gerry. She's brought normalcy back to the White House, so who cares? She's not mean like that blonde chick. Like that,
like Kayleigh Mack,
the one that owns them. At least she's nice to them, Gerry. She doesn't accuse them of being liars, which they are. So they like her. So they'll look past the fact that she's, literally lying to their face and avoids everything for so long, and gives them the most cookie cutter, useless, politically correct answers ever, and just blames everything on Trump. That seems to be their plan moving forward, is to blame everything on Trump.
But see, I expect them to blame, like the border surge. I mean, they're blaming him, but they know that's a lie. They know that as Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor of Texas, said, this is a design disaster at the border. A design disaster. Everybody coming over, they're 17, 16-year-olds. In 2 years, 3 years, they'll all be Democrats, registered to vote, ready to fight for whoever, for Kamala or Meghan Markle or whoever the candidate is. But a mass murder by a lone gunman in a city, to immediately turn that and say that is partly because of the rhetoric of the last president, that is low, even for them, even for Jen Psaki, for the Biden admin, that is pretty damn disgusting, if you ask me. But
well, how about the fact that, Gerry, so Asian Americans are the only people that you're allowed to discriminate against who aren't white, because we've seen time after time with college admissions practices, they're allowed to be openly racist towards Asian people because there's too many Asian people in colleges, Gerry. They do too well. So they're trying to set quotas about the number of Asians that can go into these schools, and liberals are all about it. They don't mind discriminating against Asian Americans because to them, Asian Americans are just as equal as whites on the totem scale of, oppression. So they don't deserve our sympathy.
I think wasn't the Biden administration who dropped the case against Harvard or Yale and from the last administration because they were discriminating clearly against Asians. I mean, they had a different standard for the SATs because the Asians were so much better than everyone else. And, to be honest, if you spend any time on these campuses, and they work harder. I mean, I used to pick my daughter up at school and occasionally be at the library on Saturday night, and we would go in and look around. I go, Saturday night, Friday night. I mean, they grind. We had a kid from Japan we were like host family for, and she would be over for dinner everything, on Sundays, that kind of thing. And she was just just worked her ass off.
It's the culture, Gerry. I mean, I went to high school with in Worcester's a big Vietnamese community, and I was in all the nerd classes growing up. Half the kids were Asian, and they came from homes. They weren't like nice homes. They were from bad neighborhoods because a lot of their parents are first generation, but they literally move here for their children because they want their children to climb the American social ladder, make money, and do well for themselves. And they don't put up with crap. They don't buy their culture is a little bit less permissive than ours, a little bit more conservative than ours. Like Cardi B would not go over well in South Korea, and in Japan. She would bring much shame to the families there.
Much shame. Speaking of shame, we got to get to John Kerry, the hypocrites. But can we hear from Jen Psaki, who turned this around yesterday immediately? I mean, again, they hadn't even, the bodies weren't cold, and this woman is talking about Trump's rhetoric.
The president said in the Oval Office he didn't want to make a connection on the motivation of the shooter in Atlanta. But to broaden it out, why does the president think attacks on Asian Americans are increasing in this country? Why does he think that's happening?
Well, he wanted to be very clear because there's an ongoing FBI investigation, right? And he didn't want to attribute motive. There are law enforcement authorities who do that, and it's important to note when the investigation is concluded or not. So that was a bar he was working to respect there. I think there's no question that some of the damaging rhetoric that we saw during the prior administration, blaming, calling COVID, the Wuhan virus or other things, led to, perceptions of the Asian American community that are inaccurate, unfair, have raised, threatening, has elevated threats against Asian Americans. And we're seeing that around the country. That's why even before the horrific events of last night, he felt it was important to raise this issue, elevate it during his first primetime address, why he signed the executive order earlier in his presidency, and he will
All right, enough. What an idiot.
Why is she always holding the pen and doing this thing? I can't stand looking at her.
Spokesman. I mean, it's one thing for a talk show host or a podcaster. There's the presidential spokesman who says, I mean, she's just stammering through this answer. But so the president said the Wuhan virus, which came from Wuhan, or China virus, which came from China. So this scumbag Robert Long shot, and he was 21, by the way, shot six Asians and 2 white people. You think because he heard the president say China virus? You think there's a connection there? Because the presidential spokesman just said that. It's remarkable. So right now, we have to worry about, according to, Fauci, or according to Jen Psaki, the UK variant, the South African variant, right?
Oh, God.
So they'll say we have to worry about these variants that come from UK and South Africa and other places. But the virus, which initially came from China, we can't say China virus, or people will go kill or beat up Asians. It's so ludicrous and so irresponsible. Again, the day of the murders, she's talking about Trump saying China virus, which is amazing to me. They destroyed our economy. They cost us trillions of dollars. This country, 500,000 or more people died with the virus. Destroyed businesses, destroyed lives.
Like, is there anybody out there
and we have to worry, hold on, let me finish it. We have to worry about the feelings of people in China. We're worried about their feelings after they destroyed our country. The mind of a liberal is something to behold. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, is there any evidence that there's actually a guy out there that's just like, you know what, COVID is really pissing me off, man. I freaking hate COVID so much, and it's all Asian people's fault. Because Asian people give us COVID. I'm so mad about it. I could just kill somebody. That never happens. That literally never happens.
No, it does not. It does not. It is remarkable, the leap that you're allowed to make with no substance, no evidence at all. Just, yeah, he killed a bunch of Asians. It must have been Trump's loose rhetoric, because he called it what it is. I mean, I have no doubt in history we'll look back and it'll be the China virus. I mean, what else are you going to call it? It's going to be the China virus.
Wuhan virus.
The Wuhan, whatever, one or the other. Wuhan virus. It probably won't be the Kung flu. I will say that was kind of
And it may be COVID-19, Jerry. They could just call it COVID-19.
Right. But anyway, it's just more insanity. They're blaming Trump. And there's plenty, I'll say it again, you can blame Trump for things. You can come up with things. You can, pretty easy, come up with a list of things you want to blame him for. That shouldn't be one of them. A mass murder on the day of the murder by a scumbag in Atlanta. That shouldn't be, that can't be blamed on Donald J. Trump. But you know what? You want to blame John Kerry for things, I'm okay with that. I don't care. The more we can criticize, the more we can make John Kerry uncomfortable, the happier I will be. But we'll tell you about the latest in COVID hypocrites, John Kerry, and what he got caught doing yesterday. And it was glorious, I have to admit. But let me tell you about Shay Concrete first. Shay Concrete, this is for you homeowners and home builders. Did you know that Shay Concrete has a huge selection of precast concrete steps just for you? Of course you do. Whether you're building a new home or you need to replace an old staircase, Shay has great values with designs for any home. Available in concrete, you can customize it. Beautiful stone, granite, or brick. Check out the bluestone. That's my recommendation. A new staircase can dramatically upgrade the front entrance of your home. In most cases, they can remove the old stairs and have you walking up your new front steps within hours. So all you do is pick out your steps. They do the rest. They get rid of the old ones, which are really heavy. They bring in the new ones. You can sit in the window and watch, and then you've got a better-looking house that's worth more. It's an investment. It will increase the value of your home. You can learn more about Shay's precast concrete steps at ShayConcrete.com, and just stop in. visit one of their 4 state-of-the-art facilities. I have to say, if this weren't John Kerry, I'd be like, who cares? It's just the guy took off his mask. But it's John Kerry, the king of the hypocrites. In this day and age, it's hard to be the biggest hypocrite because that's like being whatever, the hottest Kardashian. That's like being the most obnoxious Baldwin brother. It is something to be the biggest hypocrite. But Kerry is that guy. He gets that prize. He is just so loathsome. He flew from Boston to D.C. on American Airlines, which I guess was the biggest upset of the day, that he didn't fly in one of his jets.
Yeah, that's what I was really surprised by. I thought he has a private jet.
Maybe it's too short a flight. Plus, it's easier to stick the taxpayers with the tab. And believe me, if he's going to Reykjavik again, or going to Paris, or going to Prague, it will be on a private jet. But this was a quick flight, so he took American Airlines, first class, by the way, first class, of course, because he's got important work. As he said when he was caught in Reykjavik, flying there to get an award, a climate change award, flying 6 hours private to get an award, he said, someone like me, it's the only choice. Someone as important as me has to do these things, to save the planet. Well, someone like him could not be bothered to wear a mask during his flight, which, by the way, I believe is a violation of, is it federal law? There's a mask mandate. Here we go. There's a picture of Gerry. He cannot say, and believe me, I was tweeting about this, and people were like, well, what if he was eating or drinking? He wasn't.
He wasn't.
Okay?
Yeah.
He wasn't. There's no food. There's no coffee. There's no nothing. There's no lollipop. He's got nothing. No reason not to wear a mask. This, by his rules, by Kerry's rules, the Biden administration rules, is reckless and dangerous and deadly and unpatriotic and selfish and denying science. That's what this is. This is just more proof, and I'm not sure how much proof we need, Turtleboy. Like, at what point do we say enough? More proof that people who are telling you about COVID do not believe what they're saying. I mean, clearly, we don't want to get COVID. We don't want to get sick. We don't want, grandma or anyone's grandmother or mother or father to die. This guy's 77 years old. He's vulnerable, but he doesn't care. He doesn't think it's a big deal.
Why should he? He has nothing. He'll be fine.
And as soon as this was from the Tennessee, it's the paper that tweeted out initially, Tennessee paper, who caught him, sent it out, it went viral, and immediately you got hundreds and thousands of people saying, I was kicked off a flight, my father, my mother. You had a story of an 11-month-old who was forced to wear a mask on a plane or the flight wouldn't take off. You had people like Robert O'Neill, an American hero, certainly did a hell of a lot more for this country than that charlatan, Kerry. Robert O'Neill was banned from, I think it was Delta, because he took a picture just sitting on a plane, like a selfie, and tweeted it out where his mask wasn't on, and he could have, and Delta saw that and banned him. The gym owner from New Jersey, Ian Smith, the guy who's tied the governor.
Of course.
He was banned by American Airlines. Yes, by American Airlines. Same airline. They had this hardworking gym owner because he was caught on a plane with his mask down. There's story after story. So here's the beauty of it, is American Airlines had to respond, and they said they were looking into it. They're looking into this accusation. I'm not sure what more evidence you need. Kerry was caught.
You know what the truth of the matter is, Gerry? It's because he was in first class. Like, I've heard this from a lot of people, that the airlines are a lot more, strict about the mask rules about people in coach than they are in first class. And from a business perspective, that makes sense. I mean, the people in first class are paying significantly more to be on the plane. Do you want to piss them off by haggling them about a mask?
No, but
just admit it. It's a class thing.
It's a class thing, and I don't want to say understand. It's one thing to tell you or me or whatever, a grown-up, put your mask on. I've been on planes, you just put it on, and if you eat, you take it off. If you drink, you take it off, and I'm looking for Kerry's tweet where he defends himself. Is this it? Oh yeah. Oh look, this is a grown man, Look at his. Look at his. I had to look twice at this because this is his handle on Twitter. Special Presidential Envoy John Kerry. That's his Twitter handle. I mean, his name. His handle is
At Climate Envoy.
At Climate Envoy. What a joke this guy is. Here's what he writes. Feels like there's some St. Patrick's Day malarkey afoot on Twitter. Let's be clear. If I drop my mask to one ear on a flight, it was momentary. I wear a mask because it saves lives and stops the spread. It's what the science tells us to do. You are a liar.
But it doesn't matter. This is what we need to do, Gerry. This is brilliant. Republicans never do stuff like this. They apologize, they grovel, they beg. John Kerry just gets on here. He's like, nope. What you thought you saw, you didn't actually see. I actually wear the masks all the time, and you should too, because it saves lives. And if you don't believe me, then you're a white supremacist malarkey. It's brilliant. I mean, why don't we adopt their tactics? And this is going to go away.
It's a good question. You could ask that about anything and everyone and everything. But it is amazing. If American Airlines looks into it, well, again, what do they get to look into? He got caught. There's no food. There's no drink. There's no mask. Period. He must be banned. That's what you do to regular people. That's what you do to 2-year-olds. And we all know there's no reason a 2-year-old should wear a mask. But they literally kick families off the flights if the 2-year-olds don't mask up. They literally hold the flight up which is just performance, performative. There's no science behind it, of course. But these people like Kerry, well, we already know he's the king of the hypocrites, flying in his private jet, sailing a 75-foot yacht, SUVs, limos. I mean, he's the ultimate hypocrite. He's the one that said all those guys on the pipeline, they're just going to have to learn install solar panels.
Learn to code.
Install solar panels, and they destroyed thousands of lives with a stroke of a pen. And this fraud says you're going to have to learn to install solar panels. Hopefully today, American Airlines.
Is there anybody swampier than John Kerry?
That is a good word, and the answer is probably not. I asked this when Biden named him. That climate science is kind of trendy, right? So any college, say MIT, right here in Boston, or Harvard, or whatever, Stanford, there must be dozens, if not hundreds, of young,
diverse,
super liberal,
diverse.
Right. Climate scientists
right.
who think the whole world is going to end in 8 years. That's what or pretend the world's going to end in 8 years. Why couldn't you bring in one of them? Why would you bring in this old fossil?
Because that's what they are. They're the party of old white men, Gerry. They are literally the party of the swamp. Every creature there that has been polluting Washington, D.C. for decades was upset about Trump more than anything because he kicked them all out. They were no longer running the show. The swamp is supposed to run things, and people like John Kerry are supposed to have influence. Even in Republican administrations are supposed to, and that's why they resented him, is because Biden's telling the world now, America's back. Yeah, we're back to bombing countries indiscriminately, getting involved in one-sided deals in which we end up paying for everything. We're back. America's back. We're going to help
depending on energy and oil from the Middle East and Russia, because we shut down the pipeline and the drilling, and it's madness. I look at this. There is of all the, I saw a number, all the executive orders that he signed, I think almost all of them are unpopular in the polls. Obviously letting biological males play in female sports. He signed that executive order that is overwhelmingly unpopular among average Americans. The pipeline, so many things he did are not popular with people. But he doesn't he serves special interests. He serves the extremists, the environmental extremists, the gender identity extremists. By the way, did you see this? I tweeted about this morning and it made me laugh out loud. But I'm looking at Twitter this morning and it says, this from Newsweek, Turtleboy. I know you're
I'm big into Newsweek.
Well read on this subject, but all the states, these red states, are banning biological boys from female sports, from dominating female sports. They are coming to the defense of girls and women, and it's about time. And I think a lot of red state, a lot of people in both red and blue states are applauding this effort by the states because the federal government has declared war on girls and women. And so Kansas, the latest state, says the Kansas Senate bans trans athletes from women's teams, but not from men's teams.
That's a problem?
That's their headline to the story. They ban transgender athletes from women's teams, but they let them play on the men's teams. Isn't that amazing?
I mean, we could ban them from the men's teams too if you want, but I don't think that there's a problem of women becoming men and dominating sports. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There is no problem there. The whole point of this, as we all know, is and that Abigail Shriver, the author, who was kind of
what would women be better at than men?
Yes,
like the uneven bars, figure skating.
They're better at yoga. I'll say that.
They dominate yoga. That's true.
Yoga. They dominate yoga, but this is clearly an effort to kind of move to obscure the whole point of this is the transgender athletes, as you have chronicled, certainly in Connecticut and track, have dominated girls' sports when they want to, when they get the chance to, and kind of ruined the whole experience for girls. And people are finally coming to the defense of girls, and there are on the radical fringe, they don't like that. And so they're kind of presenting the story as, gee, why don't they ban them from men's teams too? They're not banned from, they're not a problem on men's teams. Anyway, don't get me sidetracked. I wanted to go from the biggest fraud in John Kerry to another old white guy who is just the opposite, the biggest inspiration, one of the great inspirations that I've ever seen in sports and in life. And a guy who got a lot of credit in the end, but never enough for me, and that would be Dick and Rick Hoyt. And I've been covering those guys. I've known those guys since 30-something years, long time. There they are, Dick and Rick Hoyt, the father and son team, who competed in many, can I get the number of marathons? Hundreds of marathons, and probably thousands of road races, and a couple things. And I know you've seen them in person and been inspired by them. When you see them go by, whether you're running, and I've been passed by them many times in road races, or you're on the sideline at the Boston Marathon, I mean, the hair comes up on your neck, and you just get blown away by the whole thing. They were the first. I don't know if technically the first, but Dick and Rick Hoyt inspired hundreds of other people to do this, to push disabled kids, disabled people in wheelchairs and compete in these races. But I don't think people realize just what an accomplishment, just what an amazing athlete Dick was. And he would say he couldn't do it alone. He never did it alone. You ask him if he ever run, he never ran road races or triathlons alone. He had to be with his son. And and I know what an Ironman triathlon is, but stop and think about what he did. He did 6 Ironmans, I believe, 6 Ironman triathlons. That is a 2.5-mile swim, ocean swim, I believe.
Jesus.
2.5-mile swim with his son in a little boat, and he's got this rope with a harness, and he swims, pulls his son for 2.5 miles, then does a 112-mile bike, then does a full marathon. He did that 6 times.
Insane.
And he didn't even know just how amazing it was. It was just something to do with his son that his son enjoyed, that they enjoyed together, that gave his son the thrill of competition that his son never had. And as you point out, how old was he when he started doing this?
36.
36. I believe he was overweight, he smoked, he drank. I think he worked at Raytheon. And when you saw him later in life, he was an amazing physical specimen. I mean,
He didn't look 80.
He
30, by the way, 32 Boston marathons.
That's insane.
Thousands of competitions.
Jared, I'm 39. My body is broken. I'll never be able to run a Boston Marathon again. My body is won't allow. I can't even run 5 miles without getting sore. It's and then you see these guys, and I don't know how the hell they do it. They just there's a little bit of luck involved in this, Jared, to be able to run that many miles without getting an injury or anything like that.
I think he had some injuries, but you're right. You're 100% right. That some people are luckier than others and they stay. But he would credit his son. He would credit Rick for inspiring him and bringing this out of him. So when the pain sets in, when you're halfway through the marathon, you're hitting whatever Heartbreak Hill or whatever, he did a 2:40 Boston Marathon with pushing his son, a 2:40. And I'm not sure at what age that was, but it was later in life. And when you met him, I mean, he just was so strong and powerful. He trained with his son, he ran with him, he swam with him, he biked with him, did everything. And if you saw, Rick couldn't talk, but you could tell how much joy he got out of it. And it was just an amazing thing. And later, at Sports Illustrated ended up doing, I told this story to someone yesterday, when I was at SI, I told them about Dick Hoyt, and I said, there's an amazing father and son team, and because every week they would try to solicit ideas from all the writers, and I said, we should do something on these guys. They're amazing. They should be Sportsman of the Year, in my opinion. And they kind of blew it off. I forget exactly how they responded, but it didn't happen. And then years later, when I was long gone, and I saw Rick Hoyt and Dick Hoyt, and Dick said, the SI did a Sports Illustrated did a story about us finally. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. And he had it, and it was like, and I hadn't been really keeping up. And it was like a 10-page thing. I think it was Rick Riley or Gary Smith, one of their big star writers. And it was long, and it was great. And it was all about these kids and their fathers and family members who were pushing them and racing with them because of Dick Hoyt. It was not just him and his son. It was hundreds and hundreds of other families or other guys with kids or guys with friends. I mean, when he got too old to do the Boston Marathon, I mean, he was in his 70s, this guy, a dentist who was another amazing athlete, took over and started pushing Rick in these races, and I'd see him, and he's just amazing. And he passed away too, fairly, like a couple of years ago. And now I'm not sure who will take over or if Rick will retire, but there'll be candidates. There'll be people who want to do it, because there are people who have just watched him and said, we got to do that. And think of it. I mean, you're alone, right? When you're running a marathon or you're running a triathlon, you're all alone. And you're dragging, you're hurting, you start questioning what the hell are you doing. That didn't happen with him, because he would look at his kid and the joy in his face and say, that's why I'm doing it. He never had to ask, why am I doing this?
I mean,
I hope he got to explore. I hope he has some hobbies outside of the exercise world, because he must have done. How many speeches did he do for private companies and things like that? He must have been the most in-demand motivational speaker for every company, probably around the country, but definitely in Boston.
That's true. I mean, he made a living on it, and and yet, obviously there were companies, there were sponsors that wanted to be part of this. So, I mean, he started off, I don't know if it was like a regular wheelchair, but he started off, just doing it for his kid. And you'd see it, and you go, am I seeing that right? Toward the end of the marathon, and go, did he just do 25 miles? Did he just do an entire marathon? Or did he just make it up that hill? And it was a fascination at first, but later on it became, you'd go to the marathon and you'd ask, where's so-and-so? You'd wonder, where there's celebrities. There'd be a few celebrity runners, but everyone would be waiting and waiting to go crazy when they saw the Hoyts go by. And it was, if you did it once, it'd be pretty impressive. It was how many Boston Marathons? 32.
Insane.
And hundreds of road races and 5Ks and 10Ks and smaller triathlons and 6 Ironman, which I can't even, ABC used to do, I think it was like Wide World of Sports, do the Ironman every year, and they would do a couple of stories of people. They did one a couple of years ago, a guy with ALS, he's probably gone now, but he had ALS and he did the Ironman. And I'm watching them going, there are just some people who are so beyond tough and beyond mentally strong that I can't even grasp it. And Dick Hoyt was one of them. And he passed away yesterday at 80, and there were lots of tributes, and he earned every damn one of them, because, man, he changed lives. And he just blew me away every time I saw him. But finally, he'll get his due. He'll get his due. And, good luck to Rick Hoyt. I'm not sure who's going to take over or what he's going to do. Maybe he won't do any more running races, but That must be tough. Must be tough for young Rick. And you know what, Turtle Boy, it is pretty impressive that he made it to 80 after doing all those, after beating up his body for all those years. It's pretty impressive that he lasted as long as he did. But rest in peace to a rock of a man, to a absolute granite slab of a man, Dick Hoyt. But anyway, we will leave it there, Turtle Boy. Do you have any more thoughts you'd like to share before?
And I think you said it all, Gerry.
I'll let you go back to blogging.
Yeah, before you go back to reading barstoolsports.com like you do all day.
Me? Oh, I'm a stoolie.
Yeah,
Right. 𝗬𝗓𝗃𝗀𝗄's book, yeah.
Yes, you made it. Well, I guess we both made it into 𝗬𝗓𝗃𝗀𝗄's book, which
We did together. You promoted me. That was your crime.
Well, that is true, but I'm pretty sure if you read it, you'll be the first. I'm not sure who's actually going to buy it.
Well, intern Justin read it out loud on the YouTube stream for 7.5 hours, and she wants to sue him now because he's the only one who's read her book, I guess. I don't know. But they literally want to have a copyright.
Should you really be suing a guy who actually read the book?
She's not kidding. Like she say, this is insane, the 𝗬𝗓𝗃𝗀𝗄 story. I might do a blog on that, actually. I'm motivated.
Well, I don't get to see, because I don't even remember talking about her, but she blocked me. I guess she blocks everybody, correct?
She hasn't blocked me yet.
Yeah.
She called me a
No,
lunatic.
she's got one of those, who's famous for it? Jim Murray, Felgart Mass. Jim Murray, he's famous for, like, you get the software that can diagnose anybody who follows somebody else, right? So she does anybody who follows Gerry, everybody who follows Dirty Boy, everybody who follows Kirk, block them all. And it's just...
Yeah? Oh, really? Well,
I'm not blocked yet. I don't know about that.
Yeah,
whatever, you know what I mean.
Only a matter of time.
I can't. I'm sure I'm missing. I'm sure it's awful. I'm missing so much wisdom from 𝗬𝗓𝗃𝗀𝗄. But all right, Turtle Boy. We will talk to you again next week. Thanks, and you can check out Turtle Boy at tbdailynews.com. And you have a new Twitter, yet another Twitter handle. What is it?
Well, I just changed it. So I have at Turtleboy Phone and at Dr. Turtleboy, because like if Jill Biden can be a doctor, so can I, Gerry.
That's true. That's true, Doctor. I'll refer to you as Dr. Turtle Boy for now, and I'm sorry. It was disrespectful.
Thank you.
of me. Dr. TB.
It's my pronoun.
Check him out and follow him on Twitter, the best reporter around. And we'll talk to him again next week. And thanks to Shay Concrete, not like paving at DCU and